A year ago, I rescued a kitten off the street. Well, I didn't find him myself. Someone else pulled him out of the storm drain. I'm just the one who responded to the Facebook post made by said rescuer. She wrote about how the poor thing was found sputtering within an inch of its life, huddled and mewling at the edge of a storm drain. The attached photo was of a small gray kitten with wet and infected green eyes. It was standing on a stained towel and sopping wet. Just a few moments prior, I would have told you that I despised cats and never liked being near them. If you asked me why, I'd scoff and tell you they were just dirty animals, nothing worth my time. Yet, something about that miserable little monster stopped me in my tracks. The image depicted the cat with its mouth wide open in a silent cry, looking up at the person behind the camera with pleading eyes. I guess, in the end, maternal instinct had overpowered my personal biases. When I called the woman, we'll call her Jamie, she lamented about how disappointed she was that it took so long for someone to respond to the post. She made it evident that she was one of those bleeding heart cat ladies, and I sat through rambling about how she already had 5 cats and couldn't afford to take in another one. The very idea of sharing a home with that many animals disgusted me. I was there to pick up the cat the next day. Jamie provided me with a small crate and a package of over-the-counter veterinary eye drops, and gave me basic instructions on proper application. She eventually ran back into her house to retrieve the animal, her voice and demeanor softening as she carried it back out. Seeing how it fit in her palm made me soften as well. It was so small. It's funny how your opinions can change so quickly when faced with the subject of your preconceived loathing. That wasn't a dirty animal. It was a baby kitty cat. I didn't like the fawning squeak of a voice I put on when I held the little guy. There is no dignity in baby talk. Yet the joy I felt at holding him was unmatched. Thus began my messy transformation into a bleeding heart cat lady. I didn't plan on naming him, but he looked so much like a Peter, I couldn't resist. Peter made himself at home quite quickly. His fluffy ass must have made contact with every surface inch of my condominium. I spent many a day cursing at him to stay off of armchairs and tables. It got to a point where if he heard me cuss at anything, that was a sign to jump off of any furniture he was sitting on, even if my profanity was aimed elsewhere. He picked up on litter box training in a flash, and his eye infection cleared up within a week. Cats care for themselves surprisingly well. He basically lived like uncaring roommates for the first few weeks of his stay. He had his own life and I had mine. I honestly forgot he was there at times. He was a very quiet cat. I don't know when it happened precisely, but at some point, he was sleeping in my lap every time I worked at my desk. Anytime I sat down, he was there. It became routine, and I eventually stopped resisting it. I only objected to his affections when he occasionally attempted to suckle my stomach whenever I wore a fluffy sweater. It's not his fault he was never properly weaned. He grew before my eyes, his weight in my lap becoming more apparent as the months ticked by. One night, I woke to him nuzzling himself into my arms. Instead of cursing him out and pushing him away, I planted a kiss on that perfect spot between his ears. His contented purring became white noise that lulled me to sleep every night. I loved him. more than I ever thought I could love anything. Since childhood, I would overhear my mother talking about how much she loathed house pets. "They're dirty animals," she would say. "I already have my kids to deal with." I blindly claimed her taste as my own for years. I hated pets. I'd sneer if my friends brought their dogs to any social outings. I talk at length on message boards about how humans were above caring for worthless animals. I talked similarly of children too. I considered myself a proud anti-natalist once upon a time. Yet here I was, holding a dirty animal as if he were my own flesh and blood. My friends poked fun at me for the apparent midlife crisis that had me in its midst. From their perspective, my personality had done a total 180 from the Jennifer they knew before. I'd gone from a miserable cynic with a biting sense of humor to a doting cat lover. I swear to God, if I was a proper old woman, I would have knitted Peter a sweater by then. He would have looked like a gentleman. 2 months ago was Peter's adoption anniversary, so I jumped at the opportunity to invite 2 of my friends over for drinks. As much as they liked to taunt me for my lifestyle shift, they were also fond of my cat. They insisted on bringing toys, catnip, and chin scratches along with their picks for our collaborative charcuterie board. It was nice to get together and gossip. It felt like we were in college again. At some point, we got to talking about our relationships. Emma sweetly talked at length about her long-term boyfriend while Maggie occasionally made passing comments about her own husband. I sat there, nodding and absent-mindedly petting Peter in my lap. After a while of talking, Emma and Maggie laughed quietly. "I'm not used to you being so passive, Jin," Emma sighed. "Last year, you would have downed half a bottle of Moscato and called me a slut for even talking to a man." I tensed, running a finger around the rim of my glass. "Yeah, well, I was a dickhead and I'm sorry." "It was funny," Maggie interjected. "I'm glad you're less angry nowadays. Don't get me wrong, I mean, I had half a mind to block you on Facebook once or twice whenever you went on your tangents. I don't know." Maggie clicked her tongue to summon Peter, who marched up to her and sniffed her fingertips. "I just feel like you changed on a dime." "Yeah," Emma continued. "It didn't take much convincing to make you change your tune on, well, everything." I stared between them, feeling small under their subtly accusatory glares. "Do you think I'm on drugs?" "Oh, baby, no." Emma rubbed my shoulder and laughed. "I think what we mean to say is we feel like we're getting to know you all over again. I mean, how long did you have all this love inside you, and you just never let yourself show it?" Peter now took to kneading at Emma's thighs, purring loudly. The sight was mesmerizing enough to make me zone out and dig into my own head. She was right. A lot of what made me recognizable to my friends was my almost cartoonishly contrarian nature. People would say they loved their pets. I'd smugly brag about how much I hated them. People would say they loved their kids. I'd laugh and tell them to keep them away from me. As consistently hateful as I was, I always maintained a certain air of self-aware, self-deprecating humor. Come to think of it, I performed as if I knew I was unlovable, and everyone around me believed me and played along. I laughed at myself and led people to laugh alongside me. But I seldom let anyone get close enough to tell me what I was doing was dishonest and cruel. Not just for the people around me, but for myself. I only started to act my age when I had something to care for. Something that loved me without having strings attached. I took a sip of my wine and I leaned back, glaring up at my ceiling light. Long time, I guess, I finally responded. Peter was what I would have named my baby if it was a boy. My friends, one by one, wilted with hesitation. Maybe? Maggie inquired. I miscarried in 2007. Silence. Then I was enveloped tightly in their arms. I barely budged. It was the first time I admitted it out loud. I didn't know I had all those tears in me. I don't know how long we sat there, but eventually they went home and my face had long dried. I went to bed and called out for Peter, but he never came to snuggle with me. I suppose he was enjoying his catnip elsewhere. I fell into slumber shortly after. I woke up to the sound of crying. My tired brain initially registered it as my cat yowling, but as I was pulled into wakefulness, I realized what the sound truly resembled. It was a dull, monotone scream, escaping in bile-ridden bursts. I looked around for the source and my eyes landed at my feet. Peter laid with his front paws at the bottom of my bed, his hind legs on the floor. I only saw his head. His jaw hung low and motionless, his mouth agape to an unnatural expression. The sound was coming from him, the sound of an infant wailing. The mimicry was unbearable. One moment it was uncanny like a child, then it would dip into a painful wheeze as if his body had exhausted itself of its own voice. As the cries drew on, his jaw dropped further, as if melting from his face. I felt many things: disgust, desperation, horror, and for some reason pity, as if my body were urged by its own instincts. I leaned forward and put out my hand. Shh, it's okay. The wailing dulled into hiccups and wet cooing. It's okay, baby. Come here. Peter, almost as if in pain, slowly dragged himself to my side. He only moved his front legs, his hind legs limp behind him. He looked so skinny and smelled of sulfur. When he nestled his head into my arm, he clenched his jaw and began to suckle at my sleeve. An inordinate amount of saliva gushed from his mouth. Fear should have driven me in that moment, but all I felt was peace. Peter was not in my arms when I awoke. When I checked my phone, I realized I had been asleep for a full 3 days. I was starving and sick, and laying in piss-soaked sheets for God knows how long. Something has changed within my body. Something familiar but deeply wrong. I don't know what happened in those days of unconsciousness, but I know he is still here. Smaller, writhing in my anatomy like a parasite. He has grown every day. It is now the size of a melon. I feel him when I poke beneath my belly button. I've been hopeful these last 2 months. I've operated under the delusion that I've been rewarded for my redemption, but I know it isn't true. This body was not made to house him. With each passing day, I feel another pain joining the usual cramps and twitches. Claws long and sharp. With each kick and wriggle, I feel them slowly tear into the walls of my womb. This body, one that could not bear the fruits of my labor, is once again being split apart. All because I dared to love again.